Ben, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Coley. It's been a busy few weeks with Beyond the Line, my new book, my only book, because I'm not claiming stuff Ben says.
No, you've got a previous book, yeah. I like that.
I have not got. I've not got a previous book. It's been busy. It's been fun. I've been meeting so many people, and I've been a bit here, there, everywhere. But I'm very, very well, thank you, mate. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I've had another weekend of rugby, and it's been a great weekend. The Rugby Championship is now over, Ben.
The Rugby Champ is over. Actually, I tell you what, I also caught up with Michael Checker and Julian Montoya in London the other day. That was very, very nice. So they were both on great form, and met up with them in Central. Gave Check the barbell, and all is well. They were on good form, both of them. Very nice to see them.
I hope you didn't distract Julian from his job.
No, he was on sparkling water, getting very focused for the Springboks.
Good, that's what I like to hear. Now he's in Poe as well, so he's got a big week ahead of him.
He was saying that can we just mention this briefly? Those chaps that do the Rugby Championship, it's like finish, then straight back into their club. Julian's turning up at Poe, obviously top 14 French league. Never met the team or whatever, been there, but not actually met the squad yet. Got to turn up, learn all the plays probably tomorrow, play at the weekend, carry on doing that, meet again.
In a new language as well.
In a different language, like unbelievable. The guy does not stop. So he was sort of filling me in about what it looks like when he gets to Poe and what to expect. So remarkable. He's a man that doesn't stop, Coley.
That's right, and he played really well the weekend. But the Rugby Championship is over. South Africa are back-to-back winners. I won't say they dominated the tournament this time around, but fair play to them. They did what they had to do, and I think it's the first time ever for back-to-back winners, isn't it?
That is the first time they've done it. And no, you're right, Coley. Like doing it at Allianz Twickenham, the game. Obviously, there's a huge amount of South Africans that live in the UK. So for them to play that fixture there, I know it was meant to be a home game for Argentina, but there's of course no end of Argentinian fans there as well. I thought it made for a great atmosphere. Shame it was so windy, but a great game of rugby. And I think the Rugby Championship has been so good. I've really enjoyed it. There's such a massive shame that it's not happening now for a while. Because all teams, as we've seen, has had the ability to beat each other, and the Springboks, rightly so, have won it back to back, won it once again, the best team in the tournament. However, it has been a fantastic championship.
Yes, it has. I thought the game of the weekend, watching Argentina South Africa, like Argentina again came out wanting to move the ball, probably want to take on the South Africans physically or too directly, and so they were flinging the ball around. I thought that first 15 minutes, the intensity they played with was unmatched, and then the Springboks had a scrum, and then you saw the balance of the game change. And fair play to them. The point where the Springboks had 7 men in their scrum, they had Pete Steph-Totoy stood at 9, and Ryanak moved to the wing, and they pushed the Argentinians off their own ball. I thought, that's quite good.
It's berserk, isn't it? Cole, I got like when you are facing that scrum, or if you were coaching a team that's coming against the box, like, is there any way of nullifying it? Is there any way of trying to like get away from it? Like, is there anything you can do to try and not make it so almost emotionally demoralizing for you? Like, if you were coaching a scrum, like, how would you set up to try and deal with the box?
I think like you can go down 2 avenues. You can either go like try and avoid it in regards to like quick hook of the ball and just get the ball in and out, and almost like we'll say the Japan focus they did many years ago, like 2015 and that kind of stuff, and teams can do that. Or you can kind of bit more go like they're the best. Let's see how good we are. They're the best in the world. We're going to focus on our scrum this week. And I think you have to go in the latter, because I think there are teams that probably go against South Africa and it's like, we'll just hook the ball, get the ball out of there. And I think that can feed into your team and sort of almost like, it's coming, so you might as well try and we always have had the attitude, although it didn't always work, of basically taking them on and just trying to match them and sort of get engaged, because it's going to be big. You're not shying away from the contest. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. It's like you have to take them on and you have to sort of try and get a result. And if you do, you do. And if you don't, you don't. But if you sort of decide that we're going to hook the ball and avoid all scrums and take quick lineouts and that kind of stuff, you sometimes run up your own arse and get into trouble that way. There's always going to be scrums in the game. It's just a question of how you manage those moments.
You know how sometimes you obviously see a scrum and it can like whip around. So say maybe one, the tight head's been dominant, let's say, and it's like spun around. But with the box at times, it's not spun. It's like, it's straight through the middle. Like, again, like just explain that. how is that possible? Because you don't see that with other teams. Is there just that much force coming straight through the middle? Is it coming through the hooker? Is it coming through loose head and tight head? Like, where's all the force coming through?
It's coming through the entire front row. I mean, you look at the sort of ginormous second rows they pick. They have big back rows, but they engage hard and they stay square. Like, you look at it, some Thomas Dutoy, he's not, sometimes, as you said there, so the loose head can just gets 2 inches of forward momentum and will step out and try and run it round, and sometimes the refs give that, whereas the Springboks stay in the scrum and they take you on head on. And there was those 5 metre goal line scrums where they're literally just going through Argentina, and there's not a lot you can do in that point. If you're the defending team, you're kind of like, oh, collapse it. Oh no, they've just run over the top of us and they've got the penalty, or you sort of stay up and you're going backwards.
Wasn't there a game, I swear, was it Marlon, Adam Jones, so two like renowned scrummagers, like pride themselves, and they're playing Saracens at the Stoop, and they'd been like warned, and the next one was going to be a penalty try and another yellow card, and I think they already had 2 people in the bin. So I think they have like a discussion about actually tactically,
I think Danny Kerr brought on the message.
We have to walk backwards.
Yeah, Danny Kerr brought on the message that basically it was a suggestion. So I think the front row said, what should we do? We've got to engage harder. We've got to just try and make them play away. I think Danny Kerr just came on and said, like, lads, have we ever thought about just walking backwards and letting them score? And then we won't have a man in the bin and won't be in a bigger hole. And it was kind of like, I think for a moment they're all like, we should do that. But at the same time, they were like, we can't. For the just integrity of the scrum, we can't do that. But yeah, no, that's you have those conversations. Similar to South Africa, it's kind of like because there are times when, say, you're on your goal line, you're backed up, the rules kind of change, didn't they, in regards to if you can't take a scrum off a free kick. So at some points, you kind of like, teams have to investigate. Do we, if we get in that situation, do we just engage early? Do we do this? Do we pull out? Do something, whatever you can do, but the box will bring you into that contest. The thing is with the Springboks is, any point when you're that dominant scrum, I don't think people probably understand. It's like Argentina probably tried to run them round, keep the ball away from contact. As you saw in that first half, the ball was flowing, moving around everywhere. But as soon as you knock it on, or as soon as you make a handling error, you're going to get drawn into that scrum contest, and then you've got the whole plan goes out the window. And similar with it around the field, the ball goes in the air. It's like, and when you get that side of scrum dominance, like we saw South Africa push them off their own ball, like, you don't want to catch a high ball, you don't want to knock a high ball on. There's so much stuff that affects your game and just builds into the psyche of your game. And you know that every contest is going to be a penalty to Africa. Then you're going to be defending 15 phases, and then they're going to go back for a penalty advantage, and then they're going to kick it in the corner. And you know what I mean? This whole thing can spiral into a team's way of playing.
Yeah, absolutely can spiral, because even like you're attacking and then suddenly you're not too sure about offloading because it may not stick and it may lead to a scrum because of knock on, instead of kicking contestable, which might be the main strategy of how you get out of your half. Suddenly you think, I can't kick contestable because if we don't win it or we knock it on, like we're getting scrummed, and then they're either kicking at the post or they're kicking in the corner and they're hitting us with the maul, which again was effective at the weekend for the Springboks. I just think that what they've done in my eyes is they've doubled down on their sort of superpower once again. They're unapologetically brilliant at scrummaging and mauling and those sort of contact areas, and they've just doubled down on that. But what they've also added is huge amount of depth, and they've still got that creativity. I think Reinak's been terrific this tournament. Cobus Reinak, age 35, just still doing bits. But what's really smart is obviously they're playing him with a really young 10. So he can sort of help him. So you got all that experience of him, a double World Cup winner, age 35, played around the world, like great international 9, and he's sort of helping a young 10 outside him. Then you flip it to the midfield and the options they've had there, and we've seen that, and then you start looking at the back 3 threats they have, and I don't know, I just look at the depth, from a backline point of view. And that doesn't include the depth that they're showing and the flex that they have in the forwards, Coley. But I mean, it's mightily impressive where the Boks are going and how they continue to sort of just dominate in many, many ways. I wouldn't say they're like as dominant as that like New Zealand team, like 11 to sort of 15, because that team just never rarely lost, did they? And I think South Africa is still, they lost a couple this season. But when you look at it, they've lost because they're experimenting and they're changing the team, and basically they're just adding more depth 2 years out from a World Cup.
That's what I was going to say, is like that. So the New Zealand team for 11 to 15 almost was
very settled,
settled, like everyone was sort of peaked at the same time, that kind of stuff. Whereas like this Springbok team's almost it's not in transition, but it's building more depth behind it, and almost like that New Zealand team just set out to win every game, whereas like the South African team, I think, are set out to build depth and win every game. So it's slightly different. But yeah, if they wanted to, I'm pretty sure they could just roll out the same guys and, they would be as dominant as that Kiwi team.
I feel like with the Springboks at the moment as well is if you were to try and pick your 33-man squad now for 27 World Cup, like, yes, there's some obvious choices, but there's also some really, really difficult one because there is such like depth and versatility in terms of what they bring. Even in the front row, like Thomas Tutoy, for instance, can play both sides, can't he? And then you start looking at the back row and the options they have there, the locks that they have, and then you start looking at the back line, like I say, the midfielders, the back three. I don't know, like it's unbelievable. They used 47 players throughout the Rugby Championship. 47 players they've used. Like, you'll never see a team do that in the Six Nations. You'd never see a team do that in the Six Nations, ever, never.
What's scary is the fact that you've got like Ryan Ackers 35, you've got a Polly who are sort of like, you've got Faf de Klerk can play there, so you've got guys that can play the traditional way, then you've got your Sashes of this world who can come in and play up tempo, speedy kind of way, then you can mix them, blend them both and have sort of like a, like they had at the weekend, and then there's just so many different options available to them depending on the opposition or how they want to play, whether they want to play ball control or whether they want to actually move the ball around, or they have to chase a game, or they just want to build a lead, or sit on a lead. There's so many different, there's like a plan A, plan B and a plan C, and they say it's all comes from that dominant forward pack, and they can basically do what they want.
Colin, I'd love to know your thoughts on, how like maybe the Northern Hemisphere teams don't necessarily rotate to the same level as what you see just maybe the Southern Hemisphere teams, or certainly what South Africa does. Like, why is that? Do you think that Rassie's sort of earned that right because he's an absolute elite coach and obviously has incredible success and they have the player pool? And do you think fans would be patient enough to see, let's say in England, rotate lots during the autumn? Or do you think there isn't a tolerance for that? Because if they don't win, then it's sort of everything goes out the window.
Good question. I think South Africa have yes, Rassie has an ability to experiment. And you say they lost against Australia in the first game, but no one was, there's no pressure on his job, and people, your nose might have been out of joint as a fan, but there was no pressure on jobs or anything like that. So, which you can understand, having won 2 World Cups. The depth of the players allows you to rotate. Like, if you look at probably the depth from, like, in the centres, we said before, with the Springboks, you look at the depth there and the guys they've got, there's probably got 4 or 5 guys that would start for pretty much every other team in the world. Similarly, at 10, say you've got 3 different variants of 10, but there's not many teams with 3 10s. Or 3 9s that can all play international rugby and all experience. And the good thing is, again, that when you're winning and you have that ability, is like you can play a Pollard with a young 9 because he can help manage him, and then the young 9 gets 20 before he knows he's got 20 caps. You know what I mean? Or Rhynak with a young 10, and like then he has 20 caps or 30 caps, and they're experienced and they're just winning, and they're part of the culture of winning. I don't like the word culture, but like they're part of a team that just can win. Similar with like they can bring in front rowers, they might bring in a loose head or a tight, knowing they can always fall back on sort of who they've got. So, and which allows them the ability for the big games. I would say one thing about the Rugby Championship, there's not been disrespect for any teams, but South Africa they have to beat New Zealand twice. You know what I mean? They probably have to and do that, and that's the real tough challenge. Whereas you look at, say, because they are so good, and then New Zealand are so the other teams, they can kind of rotate against Australia, can rotate against Argentina. That'd been horrible. Whereas like in England, say at the minute is you can't rotate against France, Scotland, Ireland, because you're going to lose. You can maybe rotate against Italy and Wales, but then it's a bit like, do we want to do that because that might break our momentum? We've only got 5 games together, and so it's a different choice. And also, like, I think South Africa have the floor of their performance because they're so settled in what they do with a dominant scrum, dominant maul. Like the guys they got in their backline that can score, like their floor is so high that allows them to change and adjust and try and go even higher. Whereas I think other teams, like if you rotate a few bodies out of, say, the English team or the Irish team or the Scottish team, like the floor becomes a lot lower. The performance can be a lot lower, and that you just kind of have that, you don't really want to run that risk. And that's a great question. It's one I probably haven't thoroughly thought about, but I don't think that England fans want to watch. If you lose by 40 points to South Africa, or say you lose by 40 points to New Zealand in the autumn, but it's like, oh, we've rotated, we've played a load of 12-year-olds, England fans are going to accept it. I think there can be some rotation in the squads, but you're going to do that in the games against maybe Fiji and Japan, all those kind of games, you know what I mean? And if they play well, you can bring them into those bigger games. But as an England fan, you want to watch England. You play New Zealand once, you want to beat them. You play Australia once, you want to beat them, once every year. So that's why I think it's got to be done that way.
I'd actually like to ask the listeners if they'd take a tough autumn and a tough Six Nations if it meant we could evolve the depth and the quality in the long run. Would you be happy with that as an England fan? And from a South Africa's point of view, at what stage would you like to see Rassie stick with his squad? Is it a year out from the World Cup? Is it 6 months out from the World Cup? At what stage would you like to see, okay, now I can see the 27 World Cup taking shape? So there's 2 questions in there. Please leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts. We'll read out some of the best ones next week.
One thing I'll say about that, the depth, and it's a bit boring, but like you can look at, say, would you take a tough autumn? But like it's all right bringing young players in, but you got to build a system and win games. I think like you look at Wales, they after the World Cup, they got rid of your biggers, they got rid of even before the World Cup, like Tippricks as well. They got rid of a lot of experience and haven't been very good since. And you might say, oh, in 4 years' time, in 5 years' time, like these guys will have 40, 50 caps and be good. But they've probably then scarred from losing so many games. Whereas I think like you look at England, is when you left, like Marler and myself sort of stayed on it, and Court left, a load of experience then, and Danny Kerr stayed on it. It was kind of like drip fed, those guys drip fed out the team and young guys brought in. So, you know what I mean? It's like a sort of revolution, or an evolution rather than a revolution. I think that's what fans probably have to understand is like you can bring in young guys, but you might lose every game. You might win, but the chances are low. So actually, do you want to drip feed them in? And it might not look revolutionary, but actually, if you look at the England team, say from that 2023 to the 2027, it might actually be quite different.
Yeah, no, again, Coley. And that's why you look at Ryan at 35 still playing 9, with a young halfback outside him. Now, Grant Williams for me is a terrific 9, electric, threatening, and he probably is the future for 27. But it's just managing that, as you mentioned. It's like you don't get rid of everyone in the way you deal with that. Just a quick word on Argentina, Coley, because they've only won 2 games. They finished bottom of the table. They beat everyone once last season. They also lost to England in the summer, the tour there in Argentina. Is it still good enough for them to sort of do this, be a little bit inconsistent? At what stage, do Argentina become that consistent performer that we just haven't ever seen?
They will want to build consistency. Obviously, I think that's what Julian said after the game straight away, was like they need the consistency of performance and the results. But I think you actually look at the Argentina, as Julian said beforehand, like after they played the Lions, that was a sort of rotated squad. In the summer against England, they actually rested some players. Because we mentioned at the top of the show, like the amount of rugby those guys play is unbelievable. Like they go here, they go back to their clubs now, they'll be involved in the autumn, then they go back to their clubs. There's no rest week for them. It's not like they've sort of got the, like the England players have with, when they come back to the Premiership, they get rested for a week. These Argentinian players are going and they play until they break basically. And you know what I mean? So in some regards, they have to rotate the squad and have to build depth that way. And we've said before, like the depth of the Argentina team, there are guys playing like professional, but it's like semi-pro rugby in Argentina in the national squad. And I think we've said before, like the depth from the best players in the world, like Julian Montoya is one of the best hookers in the world, down to their 30th or 35th player in their squad. He's like, they're semi-pro players. They're those young guys coming through. So like that's where I think Argentina will have ups and downs. But again, they all seem to peak right for the World Cups, and that's the main thing, isn't it, really? And
actually, one thing I will say is that they have got a real clear identity of how they play. And when they're on it, they are brilliant to watch. Like Felipe Contepomi is, has really got an ethos and identity that Argentina have. And they still beat the Lions in Dublin, of course, as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they go in the autumn. Of course, that rematch with England is the last November game, autumn game for England against Argentina on that Sunday. Now, Australia versus New Zealand. Australia 14, New Zealand 28. We first of all must say congratulations to James Slipper. An incredible international career. Well done, sir. Put those boots up. Look after yourself. Have a cold beer. Well deserved. What an innings. What a servant to the Wallabies and Australian rugby. So well done. But New Zealand, 11 back-to-back wins over Australia.
First of all, James Slipper, what a man. That's like 150 odd games for Australia. I actually think I played in his debut. That's how old he is. But, I think that leadership as well, like, not only is he a great player around the field, I think you look at the leadership probably in that Wallaby squad, like he's been captain before, and there's a reason he starts or has started pretty much every game for Australia recently, and that's his ability to galvanise a team, and credit to him. I think with, the big Australia losing 11 times back-to-back to New Zealand, like they want to get that monkey off their shoulder at some point, won't they? And I say that is, they thought they had a chance this week. It was tight. It was a lot tighter than I thought it was going to be. I mean, not being disrespectful to Australia, it looked an edgy game. And I say a couple of those games, again, we said about the momentum of the game, like the try that comes off Barrett's head when our mate Harry Potter slides in and sort of just ball bobbles up and it comes off his head and like they end up scoring. It's just like that's a 7-point swing. It makes things different. It means you don't chase the game later on. So, Australia will be frustrated, but at the same time, if you're Australia, I prefer to be in the situation now, the way you're building and the way Australia's built and play the lines and that kind of stuff, than you would have been probably 12, 24 months ago.
I really think Australia, and I'm always quick to fire into the Aussies, but I've got to say, I really think that they're onto something at the moment. I think they're on the upward curve. They're building nicely towards 27. And actually, at the game of the weekend, Coley, James Slipper I thought was going to score with a pick and go. They then do score a try. It comes back for a croc roll onto knee, which is fine. Gets disallowed. Absolutely player safety around joints. So we get a yellow card. So it's no try and yellow card. They also get another yellow card later on. So there was a few things that didn't quite go. And even the start of the game, right? Big Willie Skelton, he goes off with a HIA, doesn't return. He's a massive talisman for them. So I felt like the Aussies actually, the scoreline didn't reflect the game because I thought the Aussies actually had to deal with quite a bit. And even the first penalty that Will Skelton wins, he sort of rips the ball for holding on, chucks the 9 on the floor, and the penalty gets reversed. And then Damien McKenzie slots it. I don't know, I was a bit annoyed about that. Just from my point of view, I would say, and again, I'll put this to the fans, when there's a massive rivalry, like there is between New Zealand and South Africa, like there is between Australia and New Zealand, England, Wales, England, Scotland, England, France, basically any England game. But, in the first couple of minutes, if there is a little bit, and I didn't think it was that much, it adds to the fact that there's there's a bit about it. There's a bit of edge to the game. There's a bit on it between the players and everything. And it really annoyed me that the penalty got reversed. I'm not saying I just felt like it wasn't that petty, and Skelton's so big, he just kind of just threw him on the floor, but it wasn't anything but it's an Australian New Zealand. I'm going to
stand up for Matt Carley here. I thought it was a great game, but in that situation, I thought you watch the Lions games and there was all that sort of back and forth going on. And the thing is, he dealt with it straight away, and actually in the rest of the game, you didn't really see any. Which I think sometimes if you don't deal with it straight away, it rolls on, and referees go, I'm going to yellow card you, and it keeps going. And I think fair play, the referee came in, set his stone out straight away, and said, I'm not having it. And it kind of didn't happen. You know what I mean? So in terms of the way the referee, I think in that regard, whether you can agree with it or not, but the referee had a clear purpose of I'm not going to stand for any shit going on for any of the teams. And he dealt with it. Great parenting, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, no, to be fair, and I'm not... Matt Carley is actually one of the best referees in the world. I really believe that. I just felt on that occasion. It's a bit of edge. Skelton's in amongst it. Let's see it.
But what I'd say about that edge is the breakdown and stuff. He was so consistent in regards to there was a load of the breakdown penalties, but he wants blokes to roll away. And you know what I mean, the second man jackling. And you look at the other games that have been on throughout the whole weekend and stuff like that. It's if the referees are that clear, the breakdown gets cleared up, and we want fast ball and stuff. But sometimes you have to go for a bit of phase of there might be a couple of penalties and stuff. But if that's the way it's going to be refereed, it clears the game up, and you get the speed of ball. So it was fair play to him. It was an interesting. I thought that game was, you want a bit of ag in the game, but the ref didn't, and he got his way. Fair play to him.
So, Coley, I'm saying the Aussies are on the way up. And as I say, the scoreline didn't maybe reflect that game with a couple of yellows, Skelton going off, try disallowed, etc. However, it then leads on nicely. New Zealand, of course, only lost the Rugby Championship by points difference to South Africa. They used 43 players this season. But where are New Zealand? I feel like no one's quite sure where they're at. They had a lot of rotation again for the weekend's game. There is a hell of a team in there, but I'm not quite sure what I'm seeing.
On their day, they are as good as South Africa. They can compete. They've got a set of forwards that are hard, technically brilliant, Adi Save can get turnovers. They've got a back line, with McKenzie, Barrett, Ratimer, Will Jordan, that can fire and can do damage. We've seen, they go wide, and there's not many teams that can play with that width that New Zealand do. what they were kicking themselves about is what we said about earlier, is like the consistency. Like they don't lose that game to the second game to Argentina. I know it's in Argentina, but like Argentina seemed to the bogey team. They all seem to split the series with that. And if they hadn't have done that, they'd win the championship. So yeah, it's probably that consistency. I think when they come up to the autumn when they come up to the Northern Hemisphere in the autumn, they will, pick their best teams and they'll be ready and firing. But New Zealand, you probably, in some regards, if you're a New Zealand fan, it might be a bit frustrating because you want the team to dominate, but you actually fly a bit under the radar, even though you're the second team in the world or third ranked team in the world. But you know what I mean? Like, sort of teams are going, oh, New Zealand, what do you get? And actually, they are incredibly dangerous. And, you never know, in 2 years' time for the World Cup, they might have ironed these out and they don't go in as like the New Zealand that everyone goes, oh my God, they're going to win. They just bubble away under the surface and actually end up doing incredibly well like they always do.
On their day, they are red hot. And as you say, maybe they're flying under the radar a little bit at the moment, but they are still stacked with absolute stars.
Can I just say one last point about the Rugby Championship? And we talk about teams and stuff. We'll go back to Australia, but I think it was like 6,000 people there in Perth watching a test match. I've been to Perth before with England. We both have. And there was more people I think it was like 30,000 for the AFL game the week before. We get there and there's like 15,000 people there. No one really cares. But I think Australia is properly energised, especially after the Lions and the way they've played, probably after your comments as well. But it's energised Australia, and I think it's great for rugby. We've always said that a great Australia makes a better global game, and I think hopefully Australian public are behind the Wallabies. They're having a great time watching the Wallabies play, and it only just adds to the World Cup in 2 years' time, which I'm starting to get excited about already. Because if Australia hosts a great tournament, then you know what I mean. It could be A, it'd be a brilliant tournament, but B, it'd be great for rugby in general.
I also, Coley, where are my manners? I forgot to say the great Joe Schmidt. And we've always said what a brilliant coach he is. And he has done a remarkable job at Australia, once again proving what a magnificent elite coach he is. And he obviously now passes the team on to Les Kiss, of course, who was at the Queensland Reds, worked with him at Ireland beforehand. So they're going to transition over now. But Joe Schmidt is leaving Australia Rugby, like I say, on the way up. And, we tip our hat to James Slipper, but we also should tip our hat to the mighty Joe Schmidt, who once again has shown what a world-class coach he is. And it'll be very interesting to see, Coley, where he ends up next. Sorry, Coley, I just got a message from Czech because he wanted to know we had a podcast awards the other evening, didn't I? So I met him for lunch with Julian. And I said that I was going to the awards night that evening, and he just messaged me saying, did I win the award? And I said, unfortunately not. How's Singapore? Because he's been at the F1. And he said, I'm sorry to hear that. It's been amazing here. Incredible access. No doubt he's had incredible access. That guy does not stop, mate. Honestly, I was in Dubai with him, and then I flew back to Heathrow. He was flying to Paris. Then he was going to Barcelona. Then he was going to Ibiza. Then I met him again in London, and then he's off to Singapore, and then he's going back to Sydney. Mate, the guy's non-stop.
There were reports he was in Leicester at his favourite Turkish restaurant as well midweek.
Yes, he was. He did pop up to Leicester, he said. So there we go. But he was moaning that he was, he's on the go, mate, burning the candle both ends. And I said, you better give yourself a little check. I said, you better get yourself a Thriva blood test.
He should check his vitamin D levels. I agree.
And this episode is actually brought to you by Thriva. So if you go to their website in the episode description, you can get 20% off your first blood test. Just use the code LOVEOFRUGBY.
Thriva is a personalised home blood testing service that helps you improve your health. And we've partnered with Thriva for the whole 2025, so we can check our changes from professional rugby players into professional podcasters.
Well, Coley, because of subscription, of course, my testing kit arrived and I did my test. I sent it away and I have my results back. So I got notified during the whole process, of course, updates that they'd received my parcel, blood was getting tested, checked, and then let me get the results. And mate, the app is so incredibly easy. And you can also now set personal goals and everything like that on it, which is pretty good because it means now I can actually see what I'm deficient in, then set the goals. So then by the time the next test comes, I can actually see if I've hit those markers or if I've actually improved. And I think that is that's pretty awesome. So I've done mine. I got it back. And do you want to see how I'm going to make more of a lifestyle choice, better choices for my health? Because I am deficient, Coley. You'll be sad to hear or worried to hear.
I am. Ben, what are you deficient in?
folate. And thanks to my report, I clicked on folate, saw that I was deficient on it. I then got a better understanding by, looking at the information that's all provided by Thriva to see what change I need to make in my diet, in my lifestyle, to make sure that marker improves by the next time I get it checked. And it's literally things like shellfish, beetroot, oranges, eggs, beans, peas, lentils. It just lists it all. Like, the information that you can get via that app is unbelievable. Because one thing getting the test right and getting your results, but it's another thing actually understanding what the results are saying, because they're so in depth. But the way that you can break it down so incredibly easy is honestly, I don't know, I love it, mate.
Ben, we've obviously been partnered with Thriva for a year now, and we've tracked our health journeys. Now, you talked about something bad that your folate level's low, but previously, what have you improved with using Thriva? How's your health improved? What markers have you been tracking which have got better?
Well, let me share with you, Coley, because there's plenty of other bits that I'm optimum at. And one, of course, is vitamin D. Now, some will say that's because I've had a summer off. Others will say that's because I've been sunning myself on holidays. And they would be correct. I have been away. I have been chasing the sun. And my vitamin D is absolute optimal compared to what it would be maybe the start of the year, of course, which makes sense in January. But I'm optimal.
What's your level?
Oh, do you want a vitamin D off?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah, your vitamin D is always high, isn't it?
I do supplement, Ben, being as the fact that I are fairly pasty. Going out in the sun for long periods of time is not ideal. So I do supplement my vitamin D levels, yeah.
Right, you ready for the vitamin D off?
Yes.
I've opened up the app, looked at my report, and it is 95.
Nice. Well, I'm 174.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Did you take the last blood test? Did you do that when you lost the dogs and you'd been on a bike in the heat and you were like red as hell a thing, and you'd obviously absolutely optimize your vitamin D intake? I
supplement. I was supplementing daily, but now my levels are quite high, so I'm cutting back and supplementing every other day. So,
well, Coley, I enjoyed our vitamin D off, and there is a new feature where you get your results and you can, of course, compare them to other Thriva users, which is a wicked process. So if you'd like to make more informed choices about your lifestyle, give Thriva a go. You can use the link in our episode description and use the code LOVEOFRUGBY to get 20% off your first blood test.
We're in week 2 of the Prem, Ben, and it's been brilliant. Storm Amy may have caused a bit of a dilemma in some of the box kicks that have gone up in the air and backwards, but teams have dealt with it, and we saw 5 fantastic games this weekend, and I'm really excited the Prem is back and buzzing.
And I tell you what, mate, how good. I'm just going to jump straight to it, right? Bath looking very, very powerful, very, very good. We already know that. Myself and Ant Watson did the big Prem preview, which you can still listen to and watch on YouTube, of course, and we tipped Bath to come top at the end of the ladder. Now, although Bath were great, I got to talk about 40 and the drop goal, mate. Do you reckon no team now is going to kick long off goal line dropouts to Sale? For those that didn't see it, it's basically Storm Amy's in, the rain's lashing down, the wind's there, it's horrendous. Bath to a goal line dropout, Ben Spencer bangs it, George Ford gets it, lines it up, smashes a drop goal, straight down the sticks, runs back, starts organising the kickoff reception. Like, unbelievable. Like, he hit a couple of drop goals anyway, but it's just, I don't know, I feel like Fordy is playing some of his best rugby anyway, like, because last weekend he was terrific with his distribution and decision making. Like, and then, a week later in awful conditions, he's still out there, like, making great decisions, executing. Like, I don't know, I feel like the Battle of the Tens come the autumn is going to be absolutely fascinating. Now, Finn Smith hasn't played yet, and I suspect he'll play this weekend when Northampton host Leicester Tigers. You got him. Marcus Smith should be coming back as well this weekend. Obviously, Faz, no one really knows if he's going to be eligible for England, if he's going to play for England. Does he want to play for England? He's playing a very straight bat when he gets asked about it. No one's really sure. So, like, at the moment, though, George is how he played in the summer and how he started this season so far. I don't know, like that battle of 10 for me, it's like you got to go with 40 for that first game. And it's sort of like the Ryan Ack, debate as well. Like, you got the experience of George Ford with the inside of Alex Mitchell, who is experienced, but he's still going to be a bit more to learn. let's say, rather than 2 young halfbacks. So I don't know. I can't praise the guy enough.
Oh yeah, he's been brilliant. I think. Okay, I don't want to project too far ahead, but you look at, say, Australia, England don't have a rest week going into that, so literally you play in the Prem on a Saturday, and then you're into Test week on Australia. That a 1 week turnaround, which is unusual for England. And I think, yeah, George Ford, you look at the experience, what he can do, how he's playing, just go straight in there, makes everyone around him better. You probably favourite for the job. But yeah, I thought he's been outstanding. Again, it was a tough game to play in those conditions, and Fordy managed it brilliantly, and he makes everyone around him better, which is just what you want from a 10. But I think he was awesome. I thought you saw big Ollie Chesham on the captain in Leicester and basically show and go in space. Max Malin's his try. I thought there's been a good week for the guys that've been on the pod. Just saying.
Coley, I agree. I can see George starting that first game. I can see Finn Smith then starting against Fiji, and then it's almost a decision when they play New Zealand in the third game. It's like, give George the reins, because only a week leading up to that first game, like, we'll just command that week. Finn Smith gets it the second week against Fiji, and then it's almost a decision then on who's the better form 10 or how they're set up against New Zealand. I think Marcus Smith will be in the mix, but that's how I see the autumn so far. That's how I see it so far. Were you at the Leicester game? Because that was a hell of a comeback from the mighty Tigers.
Yes, Ben, I was, yeah. No, 19-0 down. Playing in tough conditions, and again, the first half, playing into the wind, second half, it swung round. And being 19-0 down at home wasn't ideal, but then Leicester, I say, Fuller's got a roll on. Radwan and Ollie Hassel-Collins did their thing on the wing, and big Ches in space, putting guys away. So yeah, no, it was I was very tense, sat in the stand for, I'm going to say 75 minutes, and then I was able to relax once Leicester actually drew ahead. But yeah, it was a tense game. But it's two teams feeling each other out. You look at Quins, they've had a lot of turbulence in regards to their coaching staff have left. They're missing Lions. Leicester, obviously, we changed our coaching staff in the summer, and like England players been filtering back in, internationals filtering back in, and that kind of stuff. And there was some late turnover of players. So yeah, it's two teams feeling each other out. And I think to come back and win, Leicester can take pride in that. And if we think about the start of last season, I think we beat Exeter opening day way down there, but like that was the maul at the end of the game, or a pick and go to win the game. So you know what I mean? It's been fascinating. But yeah, no, I'm really excited for the Prem.
Well, it's a great dummy from Big Red, and it was a bit of the battle of the forwards, and it was also a hell of a break by Alex Dombrandt with an awesome out the back flick pass. If you haven't seen it, check out Quins' try from a kickoff. It is phenomenal. Will Porter ends up scoring it. Kenningham gets it from Dombrandt with an out the back pass, who then links up with Will Porter, who scores straight from the kickoff. Great Quins try. So like, he's chucking out the back, Big Red's chucking dummies, and it was all very good. But of course, Carl, it was the first game that you went to, like within your new role, but equally probably as a fan. Like, where did you sit? Did you get any special treatment? Who did you sit with? Do you have a beer during the game, or is that not allowed?
No, I didn't have a beer. I snuck in and sat in the middle, sort of on halfway. Sat with Crofty in the first half, actually. Tom Croft, he'd been hosting the corporate areas, so sat with him, had a good chat with him, catch up, and then yeah, I basically sat by myself for the second half because he had to pick his kids up. So that's what I did. But I enjoyed it. I say it's quite tough because you want to sort of chat, but at the same time you got to watch the game and study it, and like you're working but you're not working. But yeah, I was glad for the result, put it that way.
And then down the M1, Coley, down at Sarries, dominated Bristol, to be fair. I know Bristol got some injuries and Lewis Rees-Sammet hobbled off. But great to see Max Malin's back. Like, he spoke to us, of course, at the Prem launch. Long-term Achilles injury, was at Bristol last year, come back to Saracens, great try from him. Sarries look very impressive, and Bristol look wounded on the back of losing some proper rock star players, which they've done now in the first 2 weekends, which is not ideal. I did see Pat Lamb come out, and I think the comment said something like impossible to make the top four or something like that, or top four's gone already. And to think that's round 2 and he's already coming out with that seems sort of crazy. But I think the players they have lost do have such a significant impact on the way that Bristol play.
Look at Sarries and you look how well they performed. I know Bristol wounded, but Sarries, the sort of the strength of the team, the defence, winning collisions, and then they've got the ability of, Bracken on the wing is a phenomenal mover, as is Sagan, as is Malins. The Glory comes off the bench. Like, they've got blokes that are dangerous. You know what I mean? Surrey's always had the defence, but any loose ball or anything like that, they've got guys that can finish. So, Surrey's, and they've got Itoju to come back into that team. They've got Benel to come back in that team. You know what I mean? They've got British Lions coming back in that team.
So Bristol got a bit of patching up to do. Surrey's, as you say, with the additions to come in, they're looking very strong, I've got to say. And at StoneX, they always have been very, very strong. Then you add in the winds that was on display, and it's windy down there anyway at the best of times. I don't know, they just know how to do it. And great to see Owen back out there. I know he was up at Newcastle, but of course, first game back at Sarries there. Exeter unbeaten after 2 as well. So they put away and dispatched Newcastle Red Bull, and Manny Feawabosu with a hat-trick. I was a bit worried, actually, because I thought he'd done his hammy last week, but it obviously was just cramp, or he's just amazing at healing, because to see him back out there and looking incredibly powerful. You said about the season for wingers, Coley, and we said about it last week, but it really is.
I'm a front row forward, and the talent that is on the wing, and especially with the rules in regards to, you see a lot more turnover ball and stuff, it's phenomenal. I think like he also looked like the wingers have kind of shifted from, there's no real like Nemanja and Dolos, like the power wingers anymore. Everyone is a athlete in space, like your Radwans, like we've seen in the Brackens at the weekend, like your Lusri Samits, like your Murleys and Iskros at Quins, like we've seen in the Gloucester game with Thorley. You know, he's back in form and that kind of stuff. Like there's so many, Freeman's got to come back. There's so much talent on the wing and so many great athletes and great rugby players that, yeah, it's going to be basically who can get the ball to their wingers and let them just run around and score.
I tell you what will give Manny Feawabosu even more room is, of course, when Len Ikitau arrives from Australia, because I think he's been terrific during the Rugby Championship. In fact, he's had an amazing sort of 12 months in an Australian shirt, and of course he is joining Exeter Chiefs. So when he gets down there, he will create more room for Manny on the wing there.
Feawabosu's first try, didn't really need much room. He got it and ran over about 3 blokes and powered over the line. Yeah, so even he hasn't got any space, he makes it himself.
He is frighteningly powerful, isn't he? He really is. Now, we were treated to a hell of a game. I tell you what, if you're at Kingsholm, my gosh, you got your money's worth. Because at half-time, you might have queued up for a beer and thinking, this is bollocks, what's going on? They were 31 points to 7 down at half-time. And if you're a Northampton fan, you're at home and you probably put the kettle on or grabbed a beer and gone out for the afternoon because you think the job's done. What a crazy game of rugby that was. Second half was it was like Saints were panicking. Gloucester, just everything was sticking second half. Everything going with the momentum, yellow cards, injuries, and fought their way back. Leeds changed hands a number of times. Saints, of course, end up winning it. Bello puts a penalty kick over. But my gosh, what a match that was. Pure entertainment, and Saints basically nearly did a repeat of what they did last week by blowing it. However, they didn't. They came strong in the end and got the job done. What a win.
Oh yeah, Saints say their strikes in the first half, similar like last week, they just almost scored every time they touched the ball, and then basically Gloucester sort of scored at the end of the first half and got them in the grind in the second. I think the scrum went uncontested, which meant Northampton had a couple of injured at tight head, which meant the scrum went uncontested. They had yellow cards, then they were down to 13 at one point, so there was space for Gloucester, and say with Thorley and Ben Loader and Will Joseph in their backline, they've got guys that can run, and as I say, Gloucester were able to exploit those space and got back into the game. And then, yeah, Northampton won it to the death, but it was a hell of a game. And say it was, again, such a seesaw. You know, you 1-0 down, and then to come back and lead the game, it's just the premise. It's just brilliant.
Right, well, we've had the Ash splash, and now it's the Fasogbon splash. What did you make of the dive?
Fair play. It got some height. I will say that it's probably a good job it was on a 4G pitch, because if that's, on grass, the groundsman is coming after you.
Yeah, you're leaving a massive divot. He is a big human. Mate, he moves so well.
Big athletic human.
A very athletic human. I love his approach to the game. Great try. I love that he's diving over, mate. No one, you know how some people dive high in the air and you think, oh, I can get my arms underneath that as he's landing. You ain't doing it under him, mate, because he is a big, big athlete. And I thought he had a terrific game. I love the big dive. I got so much time for that from a prop.
Just adding to the celebration of rugby, yeah.
Yeah, it's celebration of rugby, Cole, as well. I tell you who also needs to be brought a pint on the way home, or pat on the shoulders, or I don't know, Rory Hutchinson. What a tackle in the corner on Loader. If you haven't seen it, it is. I mean, we're only round 2, and you've got to say it may be tackle of the season or try saver of the season. Ben Loader gets it in space, right hand side, charging for the corner. Like Rory Hudson comes across, like perfect technique, absolutely smashes him into touch, like try saver and like a proper bone rattler. That guy was very impressive. He's getting turnovers and all sorts. Very physical display from him
today.
Yeah, he was unbelievable, wasn't he?
Jackals, carrying, putting people in space, and that tackle at the end just summed up. Say you're down to 13 blokes over at the time, and just putting your body on the line for your team to win. That sums up, and credit that that almost won them the game, because it's sort of just if Gloucester score there, A, energises you. A massive hit like that, when it denies the opposition, A, brings belief and energy to your team, and also it just takes away a bit of Gloucester and saying, no, we're not going to just roll over, and they didn't, and the credit to him. That was, as I say, his performance was outstanding. Yeah,
big performance, because also there's a lot of youngsters out there for Saints. Now, Saints have had a hell of a few days, because not only do they get the win against Gloucester in a cracking game, but of course, big news is that Finn Smith has renewed his contract and is staying in the Prem with Northampton Saints, which means he's obviously rejected R360.
It's great news for the Prem. It's great news for England. It's great news for Northampton. Probably not great for everyone else, but Finn Smith's what a player. And, you go him, Mitchell, Dingwall, you've seen Hutchinson, Freeman, Furbank, Slightholme, Litchfield who plays there. They're an incredible backline. And, he ties it all together. And I think interesting that, I'm not going to say, it's not really a story of him. I don't think he was ever really going to go to R360. It's interesting that he was linked to it, and R360 linked to him, probably because he's such a big name. But no, it's great for Northampton, great for the Prem. I think it's interesting. It'd be interesting to see how much more deals come that way, because I think there's a lot of guys that the guys R360 linked to are kind of, what you hear is the guys are out of contract. But as you're a player, that if you're out of contract at the end of the year and someone, you can either have a sort of a potential earner in a year's time, or you can have a contract put in front of you, and you've got a mortgage to pay. You got to do it. So it'll be interesting to see what moves forward. But I think Finn Smith staying in the Prem is brilliant.
Yeah, we mentioned it last week though, didn't we, Coley? When you've got a contract in front of you from your club, and you've got a potential contract from R360, but you're not 100% sure whether the league's happening or everything like that. And we mentioned this last week, when it's actually in front of you and it's guaranteed, what do you do? So Finn Smith, I'm sure, was sort of rumoured to be linked with it, but he's obviously staying in the Prem, he's staying put, and it'll be interesting to see what other players maybe get announced, because for me, that's an early announcement. That's a really early announcement. We're 2 weeks in, normally you don't hear about these sort of deals done until sort of December, January. Will other players now follow what he has done?
Well, he hasn't danced around it, Ben. And speaking of dancing, watch Chris Robshaw on Saturday night. See what he did there?
I can't get enough of him. I can't get enough of Robbo. I hope everyone's voting for him.
I hope they are too. He's been brilliant. I think, for a big man, big rugby player, we're constantly taught me to be in rugby, it's all about collisions and being stiff and being strong and being able to do that kind of stuff. And to go into ballroom dancing where you've got to be sort of elegant and move and flow, fair play to him. One thing I say about Robbo is one of the most coachable guys around. So he will be following, if his teacher says him to do something, he will be fully 100% committed and improving. So, but I'm loving watching him.
Can you remember Robbo, after games, how much he'd spend in front of a laptop watching, every breakdown, every moment, every involvement he had? You're right, Coley. He'll be critiquing his movements like no one else.
And one thing I will say as well, if this doesn't open up a dancing career for him, I do think he might have a job in future wildlife presenting. If I close my eyes and listen, he sounds potentially like David Attenborough. Just saying, the way he talks. I think he's opening up so many avenues right now.
Oh, potentially. Right, that will do it for today's show. So please subscribe, get involved, and we'll see you again on Thursday.
We're going to be back with a very special episode to mark World Mental Health Day. So join us for that.
See you then.
For the love of rugby.
If you want to drop us a line, get involved with our socials.
Just search for @LoveOfRugby. And if you've listened to all our episodes and need another podcast, go and find Joe Marler's Things People Do.
See you next time.